been struck by a smooth criminal.
Hey guys, Derek with Tap and Turn Gaming, and I'm here today with another one of our Ravnica Guild Battles for Supremacy decks. Doing a deck tech today on the Dimir Guild, also known as the House Dimir. They are a guild full of intrigue. They're very maniacal in their secrecy. They, rumor had it that this guild doesn't really exist, or if they did exist, it was only, shadows and cutthroat and secrets. And basically, what they are is, whenever something goes bump in the night that can't be explained, or someone drops dead and it can't be explained, they're behind it. They are basically like the Secret Service or CIA of Ravnica. They're behind all the bad stuff. If two guilds start fighting, there's a good chance that someone from Dimir had their hand in there somewhere. So the guild leader that I'm using is Lazav Dimir Mastermind. As you can see, he's a mastermind. They're really like secret agents and spies. Every guild sort of fills a role, and that's what they are. So tune into the deck tech, which is the next part, and we'll go over the deck itself, why I made some choices, and you'll see more of Dimir and Lazav. So thanks a lot. Alright guys, so now we're going to go over the deck. I'm going to start with the general, being Lazav Dimir Mastermind. He's one of the cooler clones you can come across, in my opinion, because he pretty much clones the creature when it goes to the graveyard. So basically he's a 4-cost, 3/3, which even at base is fine, because he has to come in without copying a creature the way he works. And he has hexproof. And the way he works is whenever a creature card goes to an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you can copy him. So if you mill them, if you kill something, you get the choice of whatever creatures go to the graveyard that he can become a copy of. But he remains the name Lazav Dimir Mastermind, I believe. Yep, and he also keeps the hexproof, and he keeps this ability. So it's pretty cool overall. And he is the general that I'm using for the Dimir deck. Now I'm going to go over these stipulation cards. Stipulations were all 4 of the total generals for the guild. So I have Circu Dimir Lobotomist. He's one of the original leaders. 4-cost, 2/3 human wizard. I know you might not be able to see his abilities because I have it signed, but what he does is whenever you cast a blue spell, you can exile the top card of their library, and whenever you exile a black card, you can exile whenever you cast a blue spell, you can exile the top card of the library, or whenever you cast a black spell, you can do the same. So if you cast a blue-black spell, you can do both. You can exile 2 cards, which is pretty cool. And what's also nice about him is all the cards that you've exiled, they can't cast, which really is meaningless in EDH where it's a singleton format, but still, being able to exile cards for free is never underestimated. Then we have Mirko Vosk, the Mind Drinker. He's a 5-cost, 2/4 flying vampire, and what he does is whenever he deals combat damage to a player, basically you can cast Mind Funeral. They mill until they hit 4 lands. Pretty cool. Pretty nice when he hits, because on average you're probably going to get anywhere from 8 to 10 cards, I found in my experience with him. Then we have Szadek, Lord of Secrets. When he first came out, he probably wasn't thought of as being very good. Not that he's great in general, but he is a 7-cost, 5/5 flying vampire, so similar to Mirko Vosk. He's actually the original guild leader. And what he does is if Szadek, Lord of Secrets, would deal combat damage to a player, instead you put that many +1/+1 counters on him, and then that player mills that many cards. So it's pretty cool because when he hits, he'll hit for 5, but he really hits for 0 and becomes a 10/10, and then mills them for 5. Then his next turn he'll hit for 10, which will become 0, but he'll become a 20/20, and so on and so on and so forth. So it's pretty cool. Now we have the other stipulation cards being the lands. Pretty basic here. Guildgate, Aqueduct, and Watery Grave. And then we have the stipulation mana rocks, the Signet, the Key Rune, which when activated becomes a unblockable 2/2, which is really nice if you need to get in some damage. You have an unblockable 2/2, and the Cluestone. And then we have the Dimir Charm, a 2-cost instant. You can choose one, counter target sorcery spell, or destroy a target creature with power 2 or less, or look at the top 3 cards of target player's library and put 1 back, and the rest in the bottom of the rest in their graveyard. I personally like the counter target sorcery spell. You can counter a wrath, really protect yourself, things of that nature. And then we also have the last 2 stipulation cards, which are the 2 different guild mages. First we have Dimir Guildmage, 2 cost 2/2. You can pay 3 in a blue, target player draws a card at sorcery speed, or pay 3 in a black and target player discards at sorcery speed. Not really great abilities because they're sorcery speed. If they were at instant speed, it'd be pretty good. But since it's at sorcery speed, it's mediocre at best. But being able to draw cards is nice, or being able to have your opponent force discard their last card is also not bad. Then we have Duskmantle Guildmage, the newer Guildmage, 2 cost 2/2 also. He has, for 1, a colorless, a blue and a black. Whenever a card is put in an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, that player loses 1 life. That can be pretty devastating if you hit them with a lot of mill quickly. And then he has 2 blue and a black. Target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. 4 mana to mill 2. Not really that great. It's his first ability that really is his powerhouse ability per se, even though he's only going to hit for 1 damage per card. But if you happen to mill them for, say, 10 cards and you add in that extra 3 mana and now they're just taking 10 life loss, it's not bad. So those are all the stipulation cards and the general. So now I'm going to get into the deck. I'm going to break it down by different categories. I think it's easy to go over for me that way. So I will start with my lands. I run 8 swamps and 16 islands. And then I have just a few different dual lands. I have a Creeping Tar Pit, a Jwar Isle Refuge, a Dismal Backwater, a Temple of Deceit, an Underground Sea, a Dreadship Reef, a Drowned Catacomb, and a Secluded Glen. Nothing really special in the lands, just your duals and your basics. So you can go through that pretty quick. Up next I'll have my tech lands per se, and that is my Terramorphic Expanse, my Bojuka Bog to exile their yard, my Halimar Depth to be able to look at those top 3 cards and rearrange them, and my Fairy Conclave, which I like. It does come into play tap, but I like it because it can become a creature. That's a blocker I can use later on, so not bad. Not great lands. They all serve their purpose. Next I'm going to go with my sweepers. Run a small little sweeper package. Extinguish all hope, destroy all non-enchantment creatures. Life's Finale, destroy all creatures, insert target opponent's library, and rip out 3 more to their graveyard. It's always a pretty nice if you can be able to kill all the creatures on the board, and then you can look through their library. So not only are you taking out 3 creatures and putting them in their graveyard, you get to see what's in their entire library. So you get to sort of, almost have a predestination of what's in their deck and know what you have to deal with later or other targets that you might want to get rid of. So it's really nice to also have that knowledge of what's to come. Decree of Pain, to be able to kill everything. It can't be regenerated, and you get to draw a card for every creature. Really, really nice. Or you could cycle it and get every creature -2/-2. It's also not bad at all. And in Garruk's Wake, 9 cost sorcery, destroy all creatures that you don't control and all planeswalkers that you don't control. So being able to kill all the dudes on the board and kill all the planeswalkers on the board, never really a bad thing. So that's the sweepers. Next up, I'm going to go with my planeswalkers. I run 2. I run Ashiok Nightmare Weaver, 3 cost, 3 loyalty. It has some pretty cool abilities. I mostly use the +2 to exile the top 3 cards of their library, and I'll usually repetitively use that and use that and use that until I built up a good amount of counters where I can -X, and basically what her -X does is you remove X counters from her, and you can put into play a creature that you exiled from when she was using her plus ability. So it's pretty cool. So if you want to put in a 4 cost, you remove 4 counters. Want to put in a 6 cost, remove 6 counters, so on and so forth. I don't necessarily use her minus that much. The -10, exile all cards from all opponents' libraries and not libraries, hands and graveyards. Libraries, everybody would use it, but it's hands and graveyard. So yeah, I mostly will use her +2 to continually exile, just to take threats away from them. And I'll occasionally use her -X if it's going to be a pretty good creature, but yeah, mostly just her +2. And then I run Jace Memory Adept. He's a 5 cost with 4 loyalty. He has a +1, I draw a card and they mill 1, or a 0 and they mill 10, or a -7, any number of target players each draw 20 cards. So all of his modes are really good. A lot of times I'll just keep using a 0 to keep mill them for 10, and you have out Ashiok and Jace, and I'm exiling your top 3 and then milling your top 10, and you're losing 13 cards a turn. It's really going to put a pretty big clock on your deck.
And then, you know, his minus to be able to have any number of target players each draw 20 cards. If you've milled someone for 10 a few times, then you make them draw 20, they're not going to have very much left in their library, especially if you chain his ultimate with her ultimate. So what you'll do is you -7, make everybody draw, -7, make an opponent draw 20 cards, and then you -10, and you make that opponent exile their hand. Not a bad trade-off at all. So these two together have some nice little synergy. You know, pretty basic stuff. I like it. It works well for the theme of the deck. Up next, I'm going to go over my tutors. Pretty basic here. Diabolic Tutor, Increasing Ambition, and Diabolic Revelation. You know, pretty basic cards. Everybody knows what they do. They're tutors. They find the stuff you need. Find the tools you need to beat down your opponent, and so on. I'm going to go over my enchantments next. So the overall theme of this deck, like I said in the intro, is to really be like a thefty, steely deck. Sort of what Dimir does is cutthroat, and they're coming in from behind everyone. That doesn't really sound that good that they're coming in from behind, but it's they're real cutthroat, back alley, kind of wheeling and dealing type guild. So I run Soul Ransom, 4 mana, enchant target creature. You control the enchanted creature, so I take their creature for 4 mana, and they can discard 2 cards to make this have to get killed, and they get their creature back, but I draw 2 cards. A lot of times when I steal creatures with that, I'll have the creature for a long time. No one really wants to give up 2 cards to get a creature back unless it's a really good creature. Then I run Persuasion, 5 mana, enchant creature. You control the creature. Corrupted Conscience, another 5 mana, enchant creature. You control enchanted creature, but this one gives it Infect. So if I enchant like your unblockable guy or your big indestructible trampoline guy, like a Darksteel Colossus, you're really going to feel it when I start giving them Infect, and I can turn it into a 10-point game. A Mind Control, another 5 cost. You control enchanted creature. Treachery is really, really nice. 5 mana. When it comes into play, I can untap 5 lands, and I control the enchanted creature. So this is more or less a free spell. Tap 5, play this, take your creature, untap my 5 lands, and then play like a Mind Control and take another one of your creatures. So really, really nice card. And then Volition Range. It's a 6-cost enchant creature. When it comes into when it enters the battlefield, if the enchanted permanent is tapped, I get to untap it, which is pretty cool. And I control the enchanted permanent. So what's nice about this is I can steal anything. I can steal your walkers, your artifacts, your enchantments. More or less whatever I feel the need to take is what I'm going to take. So up next I'm going to talk about my other enchantments that aren't my stealing enchantments. These are just my sort of generic enchantments. First up is Copy Enchantment. Copy Enchantment is really nice because I can copy all of my theft enchantments or my other enchantments. I can copy my enchantment creatures. So there's really a lot I can do with it. And then we have Grave Pact. Everybody knows what Grave Pact does. 4 mana enchantment. As long as Grave Pact's on the board, if I would lose a creature, everybody loses the creature. And then I also run Dictate of Erebos. Essentially the same exact thing with Flash for 1 more mana. I'll take it. Almost all my black decks will run both of these because I have a hard-on for those cards, so it's in every black deck I have. Now I'm going to go over my sorceries. I run Bribery. Bribery is a super, super powerful card. 5 mana, search target opponent's library for a creature card, and put that into play under my control. Then target player shuffles his or her library. So for 5 mana, I'm going to rip out your biggest threat and make it mine. What makes this really powerful, besides the fact that you haven't even got to cast it yet, it's not an enchantment that's sitting on your creature. A lot of the enchantments that I have that are sitting on the creatures, if you kill the enchantment, you get the creature back. This doesn't have that problem. I'm going to take the creature right out of your deck, put it into play, and it's mine. I also run Psychic Intrusion, 5-cost sorcery. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from that play. Sorry, I can't read right now. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from that player's graveyard or hand and exile it. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color. So I can take whatever your biggest threat is from your hand or your graveyard, exile it, as the card says, and then I can use my own mana to cast it. What's important is the wording on this, is it says you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color, not produce mana. So I can still produce my blue-black, but I can use it as though it were other colors to cast the spell. So it sort of gets around the general rule of I can't produce other colors, but I can still steal your spell. And then we run Stolen Identity, 6-cost enchantment. Put a token on the battlefield that's a copy of target artifact or creature. That's pretty awesome. And it has Cipher, so I'm going to put it on one of my guys, and I'm going to swing with him a few times. Hopefully he's unblockable or a flyer. And every time he hits, I get to recast Stolen Identity. I love it. I love this card. So that is all of my sorceries. Up next, I'm going to go over my instants. Small package of instants. So first one I run is Capsize. I think everybody knows what Capsize does. 3 mana to bounce any permanent, and you can buy it back for additional 3. So for 6 mana a turn, you can bounce a permanent and bounce a permanent and bounce a permanent. Most decks that run this have some way to produce infinite mana. I don't, but it's still a good card. Memory Plunder, 4 mana. You may play target instant or sorcery spell from an opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. This spell is awesome. I mean, I wish more people played it. 4 mana, and I can cast any sorcery or instant from your graveyard. It doesn't matter if it's a 20 cost sorcery or instant. I get to play it for 4 mana, and I control it. That's pretty awesome. Spinal Embrace, 6 cost. I could only cast it during combat. Untap target creature that I don't control and gain control of it. It gains haste until end of turn. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice it. If I do, I gain life equal to its toughness. There's really nothing bad about this card. If I use it on my combat, I can steal one of your guys, and I can attack with me as haste. Or if I use it during your attack, I can steal one of your guys and make him a blocker. And either way, he's going to die. And if he dies by this, I get to gain life. So there's really nothing bad about this card. I think it's a great card. Then we run Commandeer. This card is also pretty cool. It is a 7 cost instant, but I can remove 2 blue cards in my hand rather than paying its mana cost. And I gain control of target non-creature spell. So whatever you're going to cast, I'm going to steal it and it's mine. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's like a Wrath or something like that, but if you cast a pump spell or a burn spell, I'm going to just take control of it and shoot it right back at you. It doesn't copy it, it just steals it right off the stack, and it becomes mine. So that is all my instants. Up next, I'm going to go with my artifacts. Again, another small package. First up, Sensei's Divining Top. Don't really need to go over it. Everybody knows what Sensei's Divining Top does. Velduck and Shackles. I can choose not to untap it during my untap step. And what it does is I pay 2, I tap it, gain control of target creature with power that less than or equal to the number of islands that I control. And it's as long as it remains tapped. So if I have 8 islands, I can tap this, take your 7/7 or 6/6 and so forth. And then on my upkeep, I leave it tapped and I keep your guy. Pretty cool. Pretty powerful card. Less good when you're playing not mono blue, but I still have enough islands I can make it worthwhile. And then Ashnod's Altar. Sacrifice a creature, add 2 colors to your mana pool. It's nice to be able to sacrifice my own guys for mana. It's better that I can sacrifice my opponent's guys for mana when I've already stolen them. So that's it. That's all the artifacts. And on to the creatures. Probably the biggest part of the deck here. So first we have is Hypnotic Siren. She's a 1-cost enchantment creature. So she has the Bestow ability. And if I bestow her, she enchants a creature. I control that creature, and it gets a +1/+1. So it's pretty cool. At base, she's a 1-cost 1/1 flyer. No big deal. At best, she's a 7-cost enchant creature spell that gives it +1/+1 and flying. So that's pretty cool. And we have Nezumi Graverobber. He's a flip rat from the original, not the original Kamigawa set, the only Kamigawa set. But he has 2 mana, and I can exile a card from their graveyard. If I pay that 2 and target an empty graveyard, he'll flip. And he becomes Night Eyes the Desecrator. And then he gets 5 mana to res a creature from any graveyard. My graveyard, their graveyard. So that's a pretty powerful ability if you want to start stealing creatures. Dimir Doppelganger, really nice card. 3-cost 0/2 Shapeshifter. She's another one of the more oddball type clones. What she does is she comes in the board as her 3-cost 0/2, no big deal. And then I can pay 3 mana. I can remove target card in her graveyard from the game, and she becomes a copy of that card and gains this ability. So for 3 mana, I can exile a creature, and she'll become a copy of it. Pretty cool. Nightveil Specter, 3-cost 2/3 flyer. When Nightveil Specter deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top card of his or her library, and I may cast those cards. So really, really nice. Unfortunately with him, I have to exile a blue or black card, otherwise I can't pay the mana for it. But still, being able to exile the cards is great. Then we have Dimir Cutpurse, 3-cost 2/2 Spirit. When he deals damage to a player, I draw, they discard. Pretty cool. As long as he's hitting the player, it's good value. Otherwise, people still look at him and know he's a threat. So, even if he's just sitting there, people still notice him. Phyrexian Metamorph, 4-cost clone. He can copy an artifact or a creature. Pretty cool. I like him a lot. He's in probably almost all my blue decks just for his versatility. And we have Evil Twin. Probably one of the meaner clones because he'll kill his brethren, I guess. He's a 4-cost clone. When he comes into play, you have him copy a creature, just like any other clone would. But he also gains tap a blue or a black, and you can destroy the creature with the same name as him. So whatever he clones, he'll end up murdering later on. So, you know, there can be only one per se. Then I have your generic regular clone, 4-cost, comes into play as a copy of a creature. And I have Phenax, God of Deception. He's 5-cost, 4/7, indestructible. You need devotion. You need 7 devotion to blue and black, or he's not a creature, just like all the other gods. But what's cool about him is he has creatures you control have tap. Target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the creature's toughness. So he gives all my creatures the ability to mill. This used to be a pretty heavy devoted mill deck, and it was just terrible. But when I built the deck as more of a theft type deck, I kept him in just for that little bit of mill I could have. Plus, when I start stealing my opponent's creatures, I can mill them with their own creatures, and that's never a good feeling for them. No one likes to be hurt by their own creatures. And we have Ghastlord of Fugue. Fugue, I don't know, however you say Fugu. I say Fugu, kind of like Fubu with a G. He's a 5-cost, 4/4 unblockable, so he's definitely going to hit. And whenever Ghastlord of Fugue deals damage to a player, or combat damage rather, that player reveals his or her hand, choose a card from it, and that player removes that card from the game. So he's swinging for 4 every turn. He's going to hit because he's unblockable, and every single time he's going to exile a card from your hand. So he's really just putting a lot of pressure on that. If you have a card in your hand you're trying to hold, he's just going to make you get rid of it. So it's really some nice value out of him. Then we have one of the newer cards, Ghoulcaller Gisa. Again, I don't know. However you want to say it. It's up to you. She's a 5-cost, 3/4 human wizard, and she has pay a black, tap her, sacrifice another creature, put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens into play, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. This is a great ability to use on my opponent's creatures once I've stolen them, if they're trying to somehow get them back. If I steal their 4/4, sacrifice it to her, I'm going to get 4 2/2 zombies. So you really start getting a lot of power quickly with her. Really, really cool ability. Ink Eyes, Servant of Oni, very well-known legendary rat. 6-cost, 5/4, rat ninja. She has a ninjutsu. Probably won't use it very often in this deck unless I have one of my few unblockable creatures or flyers going in uncontested. But her real big ability is that she can regenerate herself, which is awesome. So I can consistently swing with her. Every turn I can swing with her because she can regenerate. And then also, whenever she deals combat damage to a player, I can res a creature from their graveyard. Pretty awesome ability. Then we have Geth, Lord of the Vault. He's a 6-cost, 5/5 zombie. He has Intimidate, so he has some evasion to get through. But he also has the ability to tap X and black. And you can put target artifact or creature card with converted mana cost X from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. And then that player mills that many cards. So if I want to res their clone, I have to pay black and then 4. I'll res their clone to my side, and because I resed it, now they have to mill that many cards. So every time he mills, you get more options. Pretty cool. So you're resing and milling at the same time. He's really nice for the deck. Deadeye Navigator. This guy. 6-cost, 5/5 spirit. He has Soul Bond. When you bond with another creature, they both have pay 2 and blanket. I mean, any comes into playability, this guy's just going to do murder with. What's also really cool with him is his wording. It's exile this creature, then return it to the battlefield under your control. So what's really cool about him is any of the creatures that I steal with an enchantment, I can then turn around and blink it, and I get the creature permanently without the enchantment anymore. The enchantment will die, and that's fine, but I'll get it permanently with the Deadeye because of Deadeye Navigator's ability, because of his wording, that it returns to my control. So it's pretty cool. And we have Wrexial the Risen Deep, 6-cost, 5/8, with Island Walk and Swamp Walk. So he has a few different kinds of evasion to hopefully get through. And he has, whenever Wrexial the Risen Deep deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card will be put in the graveyard this turn, exile it. Really cool ability. Lets me cast a sorcery instant from my opponent's graveyard and also exile it so they can't use it later on. Being able to use my opponent's spells and have them not use it is a really cool ability. Consecrated Sphinx. This card is super powerful, super good. 6 cost, 4/6 flyer, so it can get through for damage. But the big ability is whenever opponent draws a card, I can draw 2 cards. I mean, I play him on my turn. At minimum, I'm probably getting 2 cards if they don't kill him at the end of my turn. So it's really nice. But it goes to their turn, they draw, so I draw 2, then it goes back to my turn. Then if he makes it through to my opponent's turn again, I've already drawn 4 cards off him. That's pretty awesome. We have Oona, Queen of the Fae. 6 cost, 5/5 flyer. I can tap a blue or a black because it's the hybrid, and X, and she's going to exile that many cards. For the longest time, I thought it was mill, and apparently I just need to RTFC these cards. But what I do is I pay a blue or a black, pay X, choose a color. She exiles that many cards from the top of the library right to the gone forever exile zone. And then for whatever color I chose, however many of that color I exile, I get 1/1 flying fairies. So if I choose green, for every green card that I exile, I'm going to get a 1/1 flyer. It's pretty good to be able to get tokens and mill at the same time. And, you know, better than mill, it's exiled. Grave Titan, awesome. 6 cost, 6/6 Death Toucher. So, you know, he can kill some pretty big guys. And also, when he comes in, I get 2 2/2 zombies. And when he attacks, I get 2 2/2 zombies. Just great all-around card. We have Sepulchral Primordial. I love this guy because of the sheer fun that you can have with him. He's a 7 cost, 5/4 with Intimidate. So again, he has that Intimidate. He can get through for some damage. But he also has, when he comes into play, you can res a card from each opponent's graveyard. So you're playing a 4-player game. He comes in, you get to res 3 creatures, 1 from each opponent. I've definitely seen times, and I've done it, where I cast Sepulchral Primordial, and he comes into play, and my opponent has one in their graveyard, so I res their Sepulchral Primordial, and it just gets absolutely goddamn bananas. It's just good fun. We have Rune-Scarred Demon, 7 cost, 6/6 with a tutor on a stick. I mean, he's pretty basic. 7 cost, 6/6 flyer, so we can get through for some hits. And when he comes into play, I can tutor for any card. That's what he does. He does it well. We have Lord of the Void, 7 cost, 7/7 flyer. When Lord of the Void deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 7 cards of that player's library, and then put a creature card from those cards onto the battlefield. So when he hits for 7, I exile the top 7 cards of their library, and then if they have a creature in there, I can put it into play for free. That's really great. Another mill / kind of res all together. I love having the dual purpose. Up next is Abhorrent Overlord, 7 cost, 6/6 flyer. When he comes into play, I get a 1/1 flying harpy for my devotion to black. So at worst, I'm going to get 2 harpies. That's no big deal. But I have a lot of black mana symbols and a lot of hybrid mana symbols, which still count as a black. So, I mean, you know, I could get upwards of maybe 10 harpies sometimes, but even being able to just get the 2 is not terrible. And lastly, for the creatures, we have Sheoldred the Whispering One. She's a 7 cost, 6/6 Swamp Walker. At the beginning of my upkeep, I get to res a creature, and at the beginning of my opponent's upkeep, they have to sacrifice a creature. Just, you know, the great all around. When I play her, and on their turn they already have to kill a creature, I'm already up 1 creature on them, hopefully. But when she's left alone, she'll kill so many creatures. So that more or less breaks down the entire deck and all the cards and, you know, what they do and why I made some of the choices. So thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. See you later.